Hello, good evening. Thank you all for joining us for Not Your Average PD. This session is Sky's the Limit, Elevate Your Curriculum with Drones. And we're going to ask you to just, if you haven't already, drop your name, your title, and where you're from in the chat so that we have a good idea of where everyone is from. And then we're going to start in just a moment. So I see people from Cumberland County Schools, Lenore, Johnston, Waynesville, Roxborough. There are people from all over. Well, welcome. Well, welcome to Not Your Average PD. Thank you all for joining us tonight. My name is Carrie Horton. I'm the program manager for the Keenan Fellows program for teacher leadership out of NC State University. KFP is an initiative of the Keenan Institute for Engineering, Technology, and Science. At KFP, we invest in North Carolina's K-12 educators by leveraging a diverse network of partners to provide transformational professional development experiences that elevate a network of change-driving educators committed to providing a world-class education to all learners. Across our 24-year history, we've built a network of nearly 600 widely talented alumni. We're going to crest that 600 number this year with our new class that we just announced earlier this week. Through Not Your Average PD, we are tapping into this amazing talent to bring professional development to educators from educators. If you want to learn more about our programming, you can visit our website at www.keenanfellows.org, and I'm pasting that into the chat so that you can look at our website and learn more. Additionally, we have a semester-long course on project-based learning connected to local industry partnerships that we call STEMworks Sprint. That is starting this spring or this summer. So STEMworks Sprint is offered to anyone with an internet connection. So if you'd like to learn more about creating project-based learning connected to industry, you can also visit our website, and I will specifically give you the landing page for STEMwork to check out STEMworks Sprint. So tonight we are very happy to have two Keenan Fellow alumni who created this session, Sky's the Limit. They're amazing educators and human beings. Kim Collazo is a 2005 Keenan Fellow. She's a retired elementary STEM educator and a picture book author living in Lee County, North Carolina. And our other creator who's here with us tonight is Carrie Robledo, a 2018 Keenan Fellow, a computer science research scholar at the Friday Institute in Wake County, North Carolina. During their previous work with Moore County Schools, Carrie and Kim spent almost a decade creating and implementing a successful drone program for elementary and middle school students. Unfortunately, Kim is unable to be with us tonight, but we are honored that Carrie is with us and that she's here to share their experiences integrating drones into the classroom curriculum. So welcome, Carrie.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Excited to be here. So we'll go ahead and get started. As Carrie mentioned, Kim could not be here with us today, but she's definitely here in spirit. And I know she'll be watching the recording. So Kim, please know that you are loved and you are missed. Also, if you're not following Kim on social media, LinkedIn and Twitter, she's very active. So make sure you're checking it out, because if you're not following her, you're missing out. And while you're at it, be sure to check out her STEM picture books. She's a fantastic STEM picture book author, and her books are available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. So as Carrie mentioned, I am a computer science research scholar at the Friday Institute at NC State. I live in Montgomery County, so the central part of the state. I've worked for Moore County Schools, and I started my career in Montgomery County Schools as a high school EC teacher. So I'm excited to be here with you all today. So we're going to start in the chat. I'd like to know, how have you seen drones used in society? So feel free to share the different types of drones that you've seen out there, or how you've seen drones being used. Tree trimming, yes. Surveying crops, military surveillance, yes. Food delivery, fortunately not where I live, because that would be really nice. Maybe one day. Package delivery, yes. Nice. Medicine and package drop, surveillance, public safety, photography. Yeah, perfect. Photography, aerial view. Those are really good examples. They're very relevant. So I want to share a few more and some that have already been mentioned here in the chat today. Well-known ways that drones are being used. So small farms as well as large agricultural industries are using drones to collect growth data across crops and for pollination and pesticide treatments. As some of you mentioned, drones are used for all kinds of delivery purposes, from groceries to food orders and Amazon purchases, as well as medical devices, medicines, and even life-saving organ donation. Just this morning, I saw where yesterday, the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office held a demonstration event of their new AED drone, a first of its kind program that's taking flight in the United States. It delivers life-saving devices before first responders can get to those emergency situations. So we're going to put the link to that WFMY News 2 report if you're interested in learning more. I thought that was really relevant for today's session, but also very cool with what they're able to do with drones today. Drones are used to help wildfire officers and firefighters on the front lines of forest fires. So whether it's providing visuals and data on hotspots and fire progression, or dropping what's called dragon eggs, which are chemical capsules that help set back fires, drones have become an important tool for wildfire officers and firefighters. Some of you mentioned real estate agencies and property sellers. They're using drones to create more engaging tours of their properties. We're going to talk about Glide, our girls drone club, in a little bit, but our drone club had one of our high school students come visit our students, and he was a 10th grader who got his pilot's license through the CTE program at Union Pines High School and started his own real estate company, drone real estate company. So he would work with those real estate agencies to survey and do those aerial shots. And he was making a lot of money doing that as a 10th grader in high school. So he was saving for his college fund. Very smart. Wildlife scientists and farmers are utilizing drones to check on herds, collect data, and to record video and images in places that are hard to reach. That saves time, effort, and money, as well as providing valuable information in real time. As we've seen in many recent natural and man-made disasters, drones have become critical for search and rescue efforts, structural analysis, and other tasks that are difficult or unsafe for humans. Just the other day, I looked out my window and I saw 3 people in orange vests, and they were looking up at the sky, and I was like, "Hey, what are y'all doing?" And they're like, "Oh, we're with Duke Energy, and we're surveying the lines, the power lines with drones." I said it's much safer to do that. So of course I had to go out there and talk to them about it, take some pictures, but a real cool, relevant way as well. And all of these are careers that we're preparing our students for, right? And of course, the entertainment industry is all about drones. So we've seen the really cool drone light shows at New Year's celebrations, of course, like the Super Bowl. I'm sure we'll see a lot of the Olympics this year. In addition, drones have become the main way that many action and high-angle shots are captured in our favorite action movies and television shows, because it's a lot cheaper than hiring like a helicopter to get those aerial views, right? And really cool, even underwater, special drones are being utilized by the military, marine biologists, geologists, and treasure hunters. So I'm curious, do you have any experience of flying drones? If you do, please share that in the chat. So whether recreational or if you have a little business, just for fun, nice. I like that you're flying the drones with your daughter, Carrie. That's great. Crashing drone, yes. Me too, Mark. When we first started, and I'll share I crashed our drone when we were like racing through the gym. We did a drone race, and I slammed it against the backboard. But luckily, they're very tough and resilient, so held up. All right, so not a lot of experience, and that's okay. All right, so why drones in education? Kim and I we were both in Moore County schools, which was a very robotics rich district. So many of our students are familiar with using and coding Dash, Sphero, Lego, WeDo, and EV3. So we started looking for ways to keep our kids at the cutting edge of technology, right? So at that time, which was like 2016, 2017, drones were beginning to make themselves known on the international scene. But, and what we would say was like, oh, one day maybe drones will be delivering packages. Well, fast forward, and they are, right? Also, research has shown that when students are exposed to relevant STEM opportunities at an early age, they tend to seek out those types of classes and coursework throughout their school journey. So we're merging relevancy with future demand. Just a little bit of background. In 2016, I wrote a Bright Ideas grant through our local cooperative extension office, which I highly recommend seeking the funding through that if you're looking to get started with drones or any STEM opportunities in your school. So we had a robotics program, like I mentioned, with the EV3 and Dash, but I wanted to know what's next. So I read a book, and we can link that in the chat for you. It's called Drones in Education. It's an ISTE book about using drones with elementary, middle, and high school students. So that's what I wrote my grant for $800. Looking back, kind of wish I would have wrote it for a little bit more, but we were able to buy our materials to get started with that money. So when I first started with drones, I had no idea what I was doing. I like to joke that I was building the drones as I was flying it, literally. No experience flying a drone, much less coding a drone. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of guidance for implementing drones in education like there is today. So the book that I just mentioned and that we put in the chat was a very helpful place to get started. And it was extremely helpful. So the authors suggested the Parrot mini drones, like you'll see here in this picture. So that's what I used to buy with our Bright Ideas grant. With that money, I ordered 6 of those Parrot mini drones, prop guards, extra batteries, and cases. I went with these drones because, fun fact, if your drone weighs less than 2 sticks of butter, then you don't have to have it registered with the FAA. So something to keep in mind. So we knew that these drones, we were going to fly them inside, because I don't know if you've flown drones with children before or with yourself outside. A small drone like this a strong gust of wind is going to take it flying away, right? So we stuck to inside. So those were perfect for this, and the price point worked as well. So we had throughout 2016, 2017, up until 2019, we went with 3 versions of the Parrot drone until they eventually stopped making them. We had the Parrot Airborne Knight, the Parrot Mamba, and the Parrot Blaze. We liked these drones. Like I said, they don't have to be registered, perfect for indoor flights, and they paired well with Tinker, which is the coding app that we use to code the drones. So this picture is of a student coding the Parrot cargo drone. So as you can see in Tinker, they were able to use the block-based programming, which was very similar to what they were doing with Dash, EV3, and Lego. You can now program your drones with what's called code blocks. So that's what we use. You can use your Chromebook and the iPad for that. So here is an example of when we first started. So now what we now recommend, we updated our drone supply in 2019, is the DJI Tello. They very similar to the Parrot. You can free fly or program using drone blocks. But what we do recommend, because they just announced that they're going to stop making the DJI Tello. And so people are buying them up. So if you have grant money or if you have those end of year funds that you're trying to spend down, I would recommend buying. And I'm going to share a link to our website at the end of this session, so you'll see, like, we've put it on our Amazon list where you can purchase those. Excuse me, but I do recommend going ahead and purchasing until they come out with what's next. They haven't said what the newest education drone is going to be, but it was very unfortunate to hear that they're going to stop making those. We really like the DJI Tello because of the camera quality. So for $99, which was the same price as the Parrot at the time, you get this excellent camera quality. So this is actually a picture of a student flying the drone through their zoo, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But you'll see they can record or take pictures. So that's with the DJI Tello. So when we first started in 2016, 2017, there were a lot of speed bumps. I'll play this video for you if it'll.
Emergency landing, emergency landing.
So this
Landing.
This video is from one of the first times we coded drones. We had just unpacked them. I was feeling pretty confident. So I had my 4th and 5th grade robotics team. This is a small group of students. I had them test them in the hallway. I was like, we can do this. Like, I'm feeling pretty good. So the students coded the drone to take off for 5 seconds. Well, with an EV3, 5 seconds is it's fine because it's on the floor. Well, 5 seconds is a very long time when you're talking about going up, when you're taking off. So as you can see, this is where the term emergency landing came from. So as I mentioned earlier, we really had no idea what we were doing once we started with drones. And so that's why we like to share our journey so others can learn from our mistakes and you can successfully go and start your own drone adventure with your students. So as the late Harry Wong strongly emphasized, procedures are so important in any classroom. We all know that, right? This is even more true in a classroom where drones are involved. So that's why the first thing we cover before we even take out the drones are going over the procedures, okay? And so we'll talk about safety, that's very important, and how we get started with the drones. First thing we always cover. So safety. We're often in a small room. You don't have to be in your gym or your multi-purpose room to fly drones. Although it is helpful, it's not a necessity. Some teachers fear that drones will be flying everywhere. And if you start with your procedures and you have good routines in place, that will not be the case. And the missions are designed and carried out in small places. So precision flying rather than speed is very important. So making sure, I always say with my robotics teams, slow is accurate, accurate is fast. So we're not racing our drones, we're flying them slowly so we can be accurate and precise, right? So you can see in this video here, we've got it laid out. This is with our glide girls, our after school glide club. They're taking off from one spot to the next, and they're kind of in an organized, and this is a very tight room. We have 4 groups because there's one to the side that you can't see that are flying. So safety first. When we first started this, we had students had roles. We started with partners. So like Kim and I would say, like, I'm the pilot, she's the person picking up the pilot, right? Or the co-pilot. So I would fly the drone. Once the drone would land, say, hands off the iPad, because we don't want any accidents. So we take our hands off the iPad, and Kim would pick up the drone. Well, we've since partnered with Drone Legends, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But they have 3 roles for students. So there's the pilot, and the pilot stands at the launch pad and flies the drone. Then there's the safety. That person stands beside the pilot during the missions and they're in charge of fixing batteries, and they are the only person that touches the drone. And then you have the observer. They walk alongside the drone, communicating with the pilot. So very similar to what I saw those Duke Energy employees doing that day outside our house. Safety first, always. We stress continual team communication, and we create and enforce walking routes in the flight zone, and we practice that emergency landing. So always knowing like where that exit is, or that button on your iPad if you need to land the drone. And Kim shared a really great strategy that she recently learned. If you throw a towel, like if your drone starts going haywire, you can't get it to land, you take a towel and put it on top, it will land. So I thought that was pretty neat. Very helpful. Organization. So we have found that the better organized you are with these drones, the better you'll be able to run your classes with them. So each drone, both with the Tello or the Parrot, they each have their own wireless SSID, which stands for Service Set Identifier. So they run on their own Wi-Fi. We label everything with that drone's unique SSID. So you'll see here in this picture, they're all labeled with that unique identifier. We purchased 6 plastic shoe boxes, and that's what we keep the drone case with the drone, extra batteries, all the materials, the protective eyewear, they stay in the box. The iPad, we also label our iPads that we'll be using for the drones just on the back. So they know like, oh, this is my iPad. It's not necessarily, you don't have to do it like that. It's just something we like to have in place. And it reduces traffic and confusion and helps with cleanup. So if you have it all and the students know everything goes in their box, it helps to keep it flowing. We like to keep charged batteries in those boxes. And we do recommend that you order, if you're doing a supply order for drones, buy as many batteries as you can. That way you always have some either charging or in the boxes, so that if they have to change them out, they're good to go. You're not waiting on batteries to charge. All right, so with our curriculum, it's important that students and other educators see drones as more than just a toy for reward time, right? So we've got to have a purpose for what we're doing. So everything we do is integrated with the required standards, and it's related to relevant real-world drone use. So we began developing the drone lessons that integrate with lessons and units being taught by the teachers. So Kim and I were both ITFs, and she was a STEM teacher. So we would plan with the teachers, the regular education teachers, like, hey, what are you doing in your classes this week or next week? How can we integrate drones with your unit? So I'll go over a couple of these, and all of these lessons can be found on the website that we'll share at the end as well. So in this one of the first lessons that we did with the drones was we call it the Candy Bomber. We did it on Valentine's Day in a 4th grade class, and we integrated social studies, math, and then we had some engineering in there as well. So World War II military pilot Gail Halverson was better known as the Candy Bomber, and during World War II, he would drop tons of candy to the children of Berlin to comfort them. So in this 4th grade class, this is an engineering challenge where they had to create a parachute that could drop candy, similar to what Gail did. So this was a true engineering challenge that required a lot of perseverance, because they wanted to, try to get as much candy as they could on their parachute. However, the drone is only so heavy, right? And it wouldn't hold as much. There was a lot of tests, retest, a lot of failure, which is good. But during this first iteration of the challenge, we used the Parrot Mom boats because they have what's called like the grabber. So they attached their parachute and then they would drop it. We also had a budget of materials, so they couldn't go over their budget. They were limited on what they could order. But you'll be able to see on our website too the videos from this challenge, as well as the lesson plan if you're interested. And then years later, this mission was reenacted by our glide girls using the Drone Legends cups. So with Drone Legends, they have 3D printed cups that go on top of the Tello drone. So they snap into the tops of the drones, and they had to take turns. They put candy in their cup, and then they had to flip into their team's hula hoop landing zone. And so you'll see in those pictures the candy in the drone. It was a close competition with more than 25 pieces of candy being delivered by the winning team. So that was a lot of fun. All right, so the next was the drone light show. So in 2017, Lady Gaga, her Super Bowl halftime performance featured 300 drones flying in formation, which was really cool at the time. And now we see it all, like everywhere, right? And this is the first time that we had really seen it at a major sporting event. So fourth grade teacher from Howe Falls Elementary, Amelia Cavanis, we took this idea and turned it into our own drone light show at Howe Falls. So we purchased a pack of small flashing LED lights from Amazon. We taped them to the top of the parrot drone, and then the students coded and tinker their drone light show. So we went into our multi-purpose room, which is the stage. We went on the stage, pulled the curtain, and the students pressed play, and their drones flipped. And you'll see in that picture there, our guidance counselor, she accidentally took the picture, but I couldn't think of a better representation of how magnificent that drone light show really was. And now the drone light shows are everywhere, right? So it was a real world challenge. We've also done calculating speed with sixth grade. So in this sixth grade challenge, students had to fly their drones from the takeoff spot to the landing pad. And one person on their team was the pilot, one person measured the distance between the spots, and then one person timed the flight. So after each flight, the teams would use the formula to find the speed. And then the groups would rotate around the room solving those mathematical equations. And then in eighth grade, ELA, students read the book Unbroken by Laura Hillenbrand. So the book's about an Army Air Force bomber who crashed into the Pacific Ocean. And against all odds, he survived adrift on a foundering life raft. So in this challenge, students had to build a landing pad for the pilot and fly their drones to successfully land on. So that ELA teacher came to me and was like, hey, we just read Unbroken. What could we do? What kind of engineering challenge, what kind of STEM activity could we do? And we pulled out the drones and took it to our multi-purpose room. And as you can see, those eighth graders had so much fun just building and then flying the drones to land. And then in one of our glide challenges, students had to build a zoo and capture footage of their exhibit with the Tello drone. With those videos, they took those videos, put them into Canva, and made their own drone promotion, their own zoo tour promotional videos, which were very fascinating because fourth and fifth graders made those videos with the drones, and I'll share those with you as well. So I just shared several examples of how we integrated drones into the curriculum. I wonder if maybe you might have some ideas now of how you can integrate drones into your curriculum. And if you're unsure, that's okay. Maybe you'll have some ideas after our session today. Survey of plant types in an area for biology. That's a really great idea. Environmental science. Calculations of speed. Perfect. Thank you, Julia. Microclimate studies. Thank you. These are great ideas. Oh, have students create materials that could be dropped from the drones to clean up an oil spill. I like that. Oh, emergency services disaster simulations, James. That's a great idea. These are all fantastic ideas. Very practical, yes. All right, so every year Moore County Schools hosts a STEM camp, and that's how we're able to fund a lot of the STEM initiatives that we do in the district. And so that's really where we, our first year in 2017 was an aviation theme, which was very ironic because we had just received the drones in our grant earlier that year. So it was like a perfect fit. So Kim and I said, hey, aviation theme is the theme for camp. Let's do something with our drones. And so in 2017, we did a drone obstacle course, and that was the best experiences. So for the week long, Monday through Thursday, over 100 campers each week came together, and in our session, we did the drone obstacle course. The first day, like I mentioned, we always go over procedures. So that first day was spent going over drone intro and safety. We did discussions and videos, examples of how drones were used in society. And this is where we said, maybe one day they'll be delivering drones, like, you know, they'll be doing this with drones and that, and now they are. And then Kim and I modeled a flight along with the safety rules and expectations that we had. Then the next day we went into the gym, and using the Tinker app, they coded the drones to leave the launching pad and fly to the landing pad. So they used trial and error to get the distances coded correctly. They included some flips, which is always a favorite, and then altitude changes, and just experimented with the different blocks. And then that third day was the planning portion of the engineering design process. So they budgeted and they planned what their obstacle for the course would look like. And then that same day, they ordered from what we called the Drone Depot. So we always like to have a budget when we do our engineering challenges. So the Drone Depot store had pool noodles, hula hoops, PVC pipes, PVC connectors, zip ties, duct tape, and rope. And then they got to build. So after they did their planning and their purchasing, they were able to build their obstacles. So we went, following the engineering design process, they tested. So they were able to take their obstacle to the gym and fly through and test. And then that last day, we had some really excellent student volunteers. Those high school student volunteers came out and they helped us to line up. You'll see here from baseline to baseline, the obstacle courses. And the students were able to fly through all of the obstacles that were created by those the campers from the week. And so those are really fun challenge. And then, of course, one of those days during lunch, we watched the Dude Perfect drone racing where they were going through obstacle courses in an arena, and the kids just thought that was the best. So tying it back, right? So then in 2019, our STEM camp theme was architecture, and this is when we bought the Tello drones because we wanted something with a camera. So our district was very fortunate to build 3 new schools, 3 new elementary schools that year. And so we wanted the students to be able to go and see one of the schools that was being built. So that's why architecture was the theme. So in our room, it's called Documenting with Drones. The students were tasked, they built their own STEM school. And as you can see, here's the challenge. They were challenged with building the newest K-8 STEM school. And they had to use these blocks to build a school, and each day they would go and record video of the progress. So the different teams throughout the camp, the different groups, would build on top of each school. So you'll see, and then all of these pictures you see here were taken with the Tello drone. And then this video as well. we were able to tie this back into when McDeeds Creek Elementary was being built. They also did like a drone progression video, right? And so they were able to see from start to finish or almost to completion the progress. And we tied it back into to our room at STEM camp. So with the tele-drones, you can also do what's called the virtual tours. And so during COVID, we did our middle school in Moore County, Ely's Middle principal said, hey, the students aren't going to be able to, the rising sixth graders aren't going to be able to come in and tour the middle school. Could we use the drones to do that? And so we went in and did like a virtual tour for them and walked through the hallways and put that on YouTube. And the students were able to see, you know, their new school, maybe not in person, but from a drone's perspective. And then when I was an educator on loan for DPI 2 last year, before starting at the Friday Institute, I worked in my home district in Montgomery County schools. They have a brand new high school. And so we did a virtual tour of their library. So that was really cool. We used, and their students used the tele-drone to fly through and to record different parts of their library. And if you're going to do a virtual tour, I recommend using Canva to create those videos because it's very, very easily integrated from your drone to the iPad. You upload those to Canva and you can add your features to that and then upload to YouTube. So in 2022, Kim and I created an after-school girls drone club called Glide. Girls Leading Innovation with Drones and Engineering. We started with 12 girls from 3rd through 5th grade. They met once a week for 90 minutes to complete various drone missions. And this was so important to us because in Moore County, our high schools have CTE drone program. And looking at the demographics of those high school drone programs, they're majority male students. So we wanted to, give our female students the opportunity to be exposed to like, this is what drones are, and this is how you can fly drones. In hopes that by the time they get to high school, they'll say, oh, I remember being in Glide, I loved it, let me sign up for this course. And because that's really missing from the workforce as well in drones. So, as I mentioned, Kim is very active on LinkedIn, thankfully. And so after posting about our Glide experiences each week on social media, we were contacted by Drone Legends, who at that time asked us to pilot their STEM fundamentals curriculum. And this is what they sent us. And when we went through the missions and like their books, we're like, wow, this would have been very helpful to have in 2016, 2017, when we were flying, as we were building the drone as we were flying, right? Because they had it all laid out for us. The Drone Legends curriculum combines engineering and drone piloting in relevant ways. So you can build something with the builder kit related to the mission, like a mountain damaged building, habitat, and the students, they watch real world videos and they read the content about the mission, and then they fly the mission as well as code an autonomous flight. And so they really liked the Dragon Eggs, so the Fighting Fires mission where they had the cups and they had to flip to find. Those were a favorite. The girls in our Glide Club loved these missions. They're very helpful too. So what we've learned, consistently clear expectations and rules are so important. So having, those procedures in place. Drone connections can be tricky at times. So you want to make sure like you're on the right Wi-Fi, your groups are together. And then space considerations, lighting and floor reflection are very important. So you want to make sure the video down here that I have on this slide, it's kind of darker towards the end. You want to make sure that the lights are on so that your drones have no connection issues. Because we did find that the darker the space, the harder the telos harder time they had. Extra batteries, like I mentioned, extra batteries and chargers on hand allows lessons to go more smoothly. Can't stress that enough. Organization, label the drones, put them in those shoe boxes. And because they provide immediate feedback, drones are one of the most effective ways for kids to practice perseverance. All right, so getting started. All of this is linked for you on the slide deck if you're following along. But you have the DJI Telo drones. Those come with the batteries, chargers, and we'll have a link to this on our website as well. Drone blocks have drone products for all ages, including a simulator. If you want something online, then Drone Legends. Can't say enough good things about Drone Legends and Scott, the founder and CEO. They've created a turnkey curriculum packages. So they have Little Legends now for PK through second grade, STEM fundamentals, which is 4th grade through 8th grade, and then the Egyptian Expedition Simulator for grades 9th through 12th grade. If you need help writing a grant, they have an AI grant writer for you, and so you can use that link. It's in the chat as well to help you write your grant for funding. And then Co-Drone EDU, they're codable drone sets for the educational curriculum. So now, what questions might you have? Or use this time for any questions. Oh, that's great. So Michelle asked, do you know if there are any sensors that can be added to the smaller drones that do not require registration, or are they too heavy? Michelle, that is a great question. And I'll put my email, so if you'd love to connect with you, because I can find out. Off the top of my head, I don't think so, but I would love to connect with you. And Kim and I'll also talk to Kim to see, because that is a really good idea. Thank you for that question. And I'm actually going to try this out. So there's my email. If you don't mind reaching out, that's a great question, Carrie. How long does the battery last? So depending on the type of flight, depends on how long your battery is going to last. So if you are free flying just from one spot to the next, you're probably good for about 10 minutes, maybe 15. But if you are flipping, which we love to do, like the students love to flip the drones, then your battery won't have as long as a lifespan. So we like to keep as many on hand as possible. It's all kind of touch and go. The free flight does drain your battery faster than if you were to code the drone. So we found that too. So if you are programming it, it'll last a little bit longer. Thank you for that question. How long does it take to fully charge them? About 15 to 20 minutes is what we found. So what we do is we have like a charging station set up like on the side of the room. And one of the team members is responsible for taking those dead batteries and taking them and plugging them in. And they know once you plug it in, the light turns green. That means it's charging, or it turns red. It means it's charging. Once it's charged, it's green, and it's good to go. What's the ratio of learning to code to flying and doing activities? So that's a great question. So a lot of what we do, we used to spend a lot of time on the code side of things, but now a lot of our lessons are like the engineering challenges where they're more free flight. So learning to code, when we first started, we spent a lot of time on the Tinker app, just learning to code with that platform. And so that was very important first. But now with the free flight, it depends on your time. So what I would recommend, if you don't have a lot of time with your students, I would teach them how to do the free drive or the free fly. But you could teach them, and it's the block base, so it's really not going to. I don't have a background in coding, although I am a computer science research scholar now. I've learned a lot in my time doing robotics, but the students catch on very quickly, and that's been my experience always, is that they're going to teach me how to do it. So we start with the very basics when we do our challenges if they're coding. I hope that answered your question. That's a really good question too. So I would tell them like how to take off, how to land. Here's your flip. And it's good because it's a block with drone blocks. It's a block-based programming. So if they can figure out how to get the blocks to connect, and they can figure out the takeoff and land, so the two most important features, right? Then they'll get everything in between. So feel free to continue to ask questions in the chat. Thank you so much for that. Let me get back here. So for more information on the lessons and resources that were shared today, you can visit this link. It's in the chat, or it's go.ncsu.edu/kfdrones, and that'll take you to our Google site where we have our lesson plans. We have pictures. Check out the Glide site. So you'll see some of the challenges we didn't talk about today. But definitely worth checking out. What I didn't mention, one of the first videos one of the first clips, why drones, when we talked about why drones in education, that picture, one of those pictures was actually from my time as a Keenan Fellow. My project was to create a STEM camp for the Boys and Girls Club of the Sandhills. And so that was right at the time that we started the drones that summer. And so right after we started the drones. And so I took the drones to the STEM camp, and the boys and girls from the club were able to like fly and do similar missions. So that was a lot of fun. All right, so thank you all so much for joining us this evening. Contact information is on the screen. Please be sure to share your feedback. It's there in the chat, or you can scan that QR code and it will take you to the feedback form as well. I hope you all have a great rest of your school year. Thank you.
Carrie, thank you so much for joining us tonight and for sharing all of this great information. I put in the chat the link to this presentation as well, so you could go back and look at any of the information that Carrie shared with you. And then also that website of Kim and Carrie's is fantastic with tons of resources, and especially like how to get the grants and all of that. Like all of those secrets are on that website. So, and I know that Carrie and Kim are also always very willing to answer questions about this stuff. So if you contact them, they will get right back to you and sharing all of the great knowledge that they've learned over the years doing this program. So if you would please, as Carrie said, use the link or the QR code that's there on the screen to share your feedback with us. We certainly do use that to help us improve all of our PD. And we want to make sure that we are providing the best PD possible to our educators. And we can only do that if we get honest feedback. So we appreciate in advance you taking some time to just share your thoughts on that with us. So again, thank you all for joining us, and have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.